help women, save lives, and peacefully end abortion where you live.
I can tell you exactly what would happen. The infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and the family desired.
You were serious about that?
Be inspired to change hearts and minds by joining over 1 million volunteers taking part in the global movement happening in your neighborhood.
She says, pray that I can get through this abortion. And I said, oh, no. So she went ahead and went into the abortion clinic. And she just came out. She told us, I'm not going to get the abortion. We just had a baby saved. We had a baby saved in Memphis today. Praise the Lord.
This is the 40 Days for Life podcast with your host, Sean Carney.
Hello, and thank you for joining us today on the 40 Days for Life podcast. I'm Sean Carney, the president of 40 Days for Life, and your host for this podcast, which is dedicated to helping you end abortion where you live. If you are listening to this the day that this podcast comes out, December the 5th, happy Advent. We are here in a time of penance and suffering before Christmas, which is why my co-host today is in a very good mood. I am convinced, as I tend to like Lent more than Easter, and my Irish cynicism. Steve Carlin likes Advent way more than Christmas. So, Steve, happy Advent.
Hey, happy Advent, Sean. Glad to be talking with you today. As you know, we're the weird family that puts a Christmas tree up late and leaves it up late. So I'm all about the Advent.
Yeah, you just run the risk of somebody one day saying, you know, their two oldest kids turned out normal. And once you don't, can't turn on the Christmas tree until like 4 p.m. on the 24th. We need to update. We've had to pre-record a lot of episodes. We got some requests we were talking about baseball for a while. As we know, the Astros lost to the Rangers, who absolutely pounded them into the ground in Game 7, and then won the World Series. So a victory for Texas. And Steve, we referenced the Texas Rangers earlier in the year, and it's kind of a victory for America.
Yeah, the Texas Rangers being the one Major League Baseball team that did not celebrate a so-called Pride Night. And looks like God rewarded them. God bless Texas.
It's one for the homophobes. There we go. The Texas Rangers won the World Series. And then I went to, so we're recording this the week after Thanksgiving. I go to Mass on Sunday, and everybody's coming up to me going, how'd the third mystery fried turkey go? So we did fry our 3 turkeys, as we broke down on the podcast due to high demand for these recipes. The 3 Cajun turkeys, and then I added a south of the border turkey. And I have to say, Steve, the third turkey was disappointing in spice. When I was making it, I thought, as I told you, somebody may die or at least end up in the hospital because it was so spicy, and the turkey just absorbed everything. So I made some notes to myself that I put in my calendar for November 2024 that I think some habanero or serrano peppers are going to be making an entrance into that Latin American or Mexican turkey that I did. So the Cajun one was awesome. Slap Ya Mama came through big time. Slap Ya Mama Hot came through big time. It was extremely, extremely tasty, and we had a ton of people over. There was controversy because we had some priests over, and one of the priests said Mass in our house, which was beautiful, the morning of Thanksgiving. So we convert this area into a little chapel, and I'm in the back, Steve, because I have the plan that I'm going to light the oil for the turkey and then go in for Mass, because the oil takes forever to heat up. And the weather's great, all this stuff. So my brother-in-law lights the grill because he's going to smoke a ham. I turn on the oil, and then I'm like in the back, like watching it to make sure I don't blow up my house. And about halfway through Mass, it starts to rain. And that's a problem. The oil's not covered. It has a lid on it, but there's no canopy or anything. And I didn't think about rain because there was no rain in the forecast. Unbelievable. So I start to have a mini panic attack in the middle of Mass, and I was paying attention. I was giving my attention to God, but I was also thinking about my precious oil and hoping that the priest would hurry up. So, right when mass was over, I run out of my brother-in-law because I'm like, am I going to have to wait for the oil to cool so I can move it to the front porch that's covered? So I'm like, we just went from eating at 2 to eating at 7 o'clock at night. I mean, how long is it going to take for this oil to cool so I can carry it right to the front yard? So it's really bad. So we run out there and we decide to sort of create an umbrella setup that had a little cousin Eddie to it. If you look at it from afar, we were in the backyard, nobody could see us, but it worked. And we covered the grill and we covered the oil and it was amazing.
Well, I think it's for the best that it didn't work out exactly as you hoped, because who was it? Was it Alexander the Great line, and he wept for there were no more worlds to conquer. You still have another turkey to conquer next year.
I'm not done on this earth, my friend. I've still got some things I want to set out and accomplish. And speaking of accomplishments, we are going to transition from that important topic to another important topic. And, there's probably a how to fry and how not to fry a turkey. But today we are going to talk about what to say and what not to say to abortion workers. And our experience and the vast experience, she has way more experience than we do in this topic, of our guest, is that this can be one of the most beautiful things in your life. If you have a friend or you know somebody who works in the abortion industry and you see them convert either from afar or you have direct contact with them, it's just a beautiful story. It's life-changing. It can also be a disaster where one realizes, I don't think I should be talking to workers who are thinking of converting. And that is what we are going to cover today. And our longtime friend, Abby Johnson, who's the former Planned Parenthood director at the place where 40 Days for Life first began. If you email us at podcast@40daysforlife.com, I want you to email us at podcast@40daysforlife.com and give us your favorite Abby Johnson story. And we're going to take the 5 best stories. It can be funny. We actually hope it is. But whatever the story is, you introduced her to your kid, you heard her speak, she got you more involved, whatever it is, email podcast@40daysforlife.com. Tell us your favorite Abby Johnson story or interaction, and we'll take the 5 best, and we will send you a copy of her book, Fierce Mercy, and a copy of her movie, Unplanned. So get your stories, write them in. We'll take the top 5, and we'll send you some free Abby Johnson stuff. So with that, we welcome back to the podcast, Abby Johnson. Abby, how are you?
I am good. That is funny. That I'm interested. You're not allowed to submit any, Sean.
I'm just gonna send books and DVDs to myself.
That's gonna be funny. I'm interested to see who submits something. Hopefully, none of my friends from high school hear this.
Yeah, it could be offensive.
It could really go somewhere interesting, I think.
It could be reprehensible.
Yeah.
We'll just say, yeah, nobody emailed us. It was weird.
We got nothing.
We got nothing. We got absolutely nothing. Okay, let's do a little catch up before we get into the what to say to workers and what not to say. So it has been okay, it is going to be. This is you have a little anniversary. So Unplanned, the movie, came out in March of 2019. So we're coming up on 5 years in March, which is hard to believe.
I know.
Can you give the audience a little bit of what changed in your life? Or was it like, hey, they made a whole movie about my life and it was crazy and I'm glad it's over, but now things are back to normal? Or is it just this, once the movie's out there, you're that lady from that movie that we saw?
Yeah, it's kind of like that. I think, it's been pretty nonstop since, November of 2009. But
we're going big picture here.
Yeah, big picture. But it's it's kind of weird. I think people are like, oh my gosh, it's got to be so cool to have a movie out about yourself. And I mean, I guess, but it's, it's kind of odd in a way. It's strange. I mean, you come out smelling like a rose in it, Sean. But you know, I remember the first time I watched it, like the rough cut. I just thought, oh my gosh, I just want to put this whole thing like back in a box. I don't want this to come out because, you know, everybody else in the movie looks fantastic, right? Like Doug looks like a peach. You and Mary Lisa look great. Like everybody.
We're not sweating either. You notice that? There's no heat in Texas.
There's no sweat in Texas.
No bugs. It's just great.
It's great. And so, but I'm like this reprehensible character that's selling abortion to everybody who's coming into my facility. And that's accurate. But it's a terrible way. It's terrible. Like when the truth of who you are is being portrayed out to hundreds of thousands of people. And so, that kind of sucks. But at the end of the day, I tell people all the time, the movie wasn't about, for me, it wasn't like, oh, I want a movie to come out about myself. Like I didn't want the movie to be done at all in the beginning. It was really about just showing that conversion is possible, that this is real, that God's redemption is real. At the end of the day, it could have been about somebody named Alice Smith for all I cared. It wasn't about, Abby Johnson. But it is interesting kind of just showing all of the ugly parts of your life to everybody and letting them kind of, pick that apart. But the good news is that there's redemption, right? And that's at the heart of the story.
Good movies, which we like to talk about a lot on the podcast. Good movies, when they're well done, and Chuck and Carrie did a great job, you're kind of rooting for people you shouldn't root for.
Yeah.
And I noticed, having lived through the story, you're okay. So yeah, you come out great, right? In the end, and it's this beautiful story, but you're a likable character who everyone's kind of rooting for and mad at, the first, 2/3 of the movie. I remember when I saw it they do this hurricane sequence. Okay. Where you're trying to schedule abortions and get women in and out before the hurricane hits. And at the end of it, they're doing like music and you're doing a voiceover and how you worked really hard on it. It was like this team effort. And I was like, oh, they pulled it off. And I was like, wait, that's bad. I forgot what was going on. And that's a sign of a good movie. Like, why am I rooting for this? It's the music got me or whatever. And I think that makes it a lot more powerful. When I first saw the movie, I was grateful to you and Doug, and I didn't really know the process, but I was like, they're really putting themselves out there, because reading Unplanned, the book, there's a lot of stuff, and people got to get the book. And the movie is awesome, but it's like most things, the book is better.
The book is better. Yeah.
They cut out Haywood. I was like, you cut out the only black guy. I don't know how to say. I don't know how to say this. I know.
That's who I am. Racist.
I told Haywood that about that conversation.
I was like, cut out the black guy.
Cracking up.
Get him out of here.
Exactly. So the book is better, but you can like put down the book and get away from it, or you can come back to it. Most people don't read books in one sitting. The movie is just a beatdown at parts. And you're just kind of sitting there going, I don't really want popcorn, but I don't have to go to the bathroom. But this is intense, and I need a break.
Yeah, I need a break.
Yeah, and it's so well done though. And if people haven't seen it, you got to get Unplanned, and you got to read the book if you only saw the movie. I've been a big proponent of that.
The book is so much better because it's like so much more detailed, I think. And I think in the book, like we did a really good job of telling kind of the slow process of getting into the abortion industry. And, you know, you do what you can in a 90-minute film, right? But you really see just kind of that deception and like how somebody can make it okay in their mind after, you know, that process. You really see the grooming, I guess, in the book in a way that you don't have the ability to see in the film just because of the short nature of a film.
Yeah, it's hard, and they cover 10 years in the movie, and
Right.
that's hard to do, and they do a really good job of it. But
They
and
did,
that,
yeah.
by the way, that's why Haywood got cut out. It was a timing issue. And
Yeah.
I understand, because in the book, he kind of comes in and you're waiting for him to come back, and he comes back and he's just there the whole time. And in a movie, you can't insert
No, you can't.
Haywood's story in like
Right.
it just doesn't work. So
Right.
Haywood probably is a movie as he exists as is. Okay, so one of the beautiful things about this whole story is you decide to do something that no former abortion worker has done. And I always remind our audience, because I think we're in like high tide of people leaving the abortion industry. And it used to be this rare thing that never happened. I mean, I saw Carol Everett speak in the 8th grade, and she was like a unicorn, right? She owned abortion clinics, and now she's pro-life. Dr. Bernard Nathanson, I mean, that was late 70s, early 80s, his conversion.
Right.
It just was this like once every 10-year thing. And then you leave and you start something that everybody's probably looking around going, how does that not already exist? And you started a ministry that helps people get out of the industry as you got out. And then there were none. How many, I can't keep up. How many workers have y'all actually helped leave?
Yeah. So we have helped to transition. We're now almost at 700.
Wow.
So, and our successes, we don't, you know, we've had more than that, you know, amount of people contact us and, you know, leave, and then we never talk to them again. Like we don't have contact with them.
Right.
So we don't count those in our, like what we count as our 700 like successes. So, the numbers that we count, the numbers that we put out there are only people that left that actually had a true conversion, and that then went on to have a relationship with Christ. So, you know, sure, there's people that have come through the ministry and they, you know, got their replacement income, and they, you know, probably just left for the paycheck, and then they moved on, got another job, and we never heard from them again. And that's not really, that's fine. Like we're here to help them too. But really, quality for us is that relationship development, and then having them come into a saving relationship with Christ. I mean, that's really success for us. And so when you see our numbers, you know, like if you see, you know, 690 or whatever, that's 690 conversions that you're seeing, people that have left the industry.
It's a wonderful thing. And I think your story, whether it be through the book or the movie or any of the work that you've done as a spokesperson for this movement, has inspired so many people to believe that it's possible, right? We live in this highly polarized, divided world. It's very tribal, and it's like, we hate those people and those people hate us. And so I think it's been just a great gift to the world that your story has helped people recognize that conversion is possible, and it's possible to leave the abortion industry. At the same time, I think that also sort of creates a temptation at times where you find pro-lifers who they want to like get the next Abby Johnson, which objectively is a wonderful thing, but it can also be sort of like, I guess, a little bit of a mutation on a good thing. If you're someone who's out doing sidewalk counseling or participating in a 40 Days for Life campaign, what is the best way for those people on the streets to begin or initiate or cultivate a real relationship with perhaps their local abortion facility manager?
Yeah. So, I tell people that abortion clinic workers are just like everybody else that So they're not, I think that was something that surprised people when I left. And when I came forward, people were like, oh, like she's like relatively normal. Like she's
Yeah.
a wife and she has a kid. They couldn't believe like I actually had like a daughter. The assumption is that if you work in the abortion industry, you have no children. The assumption is that you hate children. If you
Yeah.
work in an abortion clinic, you hate children and you would never want to have children. You would kill all the children that you're around, right? Or that you're like this terror, right? Like you come across a child on the street and you're going to kill them. And
Yeah.
that is like this weird. I mean, I remember when I left Planned Parenthood, there were people that were like, "Oh, I would never let her come around my daughter because she's dangerous to children."
Really?
Yeah. As if I'm just out on sidewalks like murdering
Like
children on the
like
sidewalk.
a
I'm like,
shooter
guys,
on the
come
loose.
on. Yeah. So I think that's kind of like it's the first thing is like recognizing that these are just very normal people. They're just like, your friend down the road. You could be worshiping with someone who works at an abortion clinic, and there's people that are like, not me, not in my church. I'm like, you better believe, like in your church. I was in church every Sunday and worked at an abortion clinic. Um, Sean, this, there were two women who were practicing Catholics that went to a Catholic church in Bryan. And people with the Coalition for Life there in Bryan had alerted the priest that, there were parishioners there at that church that were going there every Sunday. They were receiving the Eucharist and they were working at an abortion clinic. And, the priest was like, well, that's kind of on them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they are in your churches, they are in your congregation. And so they're all around you, right? You could have kids on the same softball little league team, right? The same YMCA basketball teams. So that's kind of the first thing to note. And so that being said, you want to treat them like normal everyday people. And so just like, if you were talking to a friend of yours that you saw at the grocery store, you're going to, if you just met someone and you're trying to develop a relationship with them, that's the same thing that you're going to do to a worker on the sidewalk. So, you're just going to introduce yourself just like a normal person would, right?
Good morning.
Yeah. Good morning. Hope you have a good day today. Right. Or good morning. My name is Abby. One thing I say to workers a lot if I'm out in front of a clinic is I'll just say, "Hey, my name is Abby." And I'll just say, "Listen, I'm going to be out here praying for the next couple of hours. So if you have anything you would like me to pray for, any prayer requests, anything with you or your family, I'm going to be out here anyway. And I'd be happy to pray for anything, that you'd like me to." And I have had workers come up to me and say, "Yeah, actually, my grandma's in the hospital," or "Can you pray for this?" A lot of these workers are people of faith, or they have a faith foundation. Most of them have some sort of faith foundation. So, don't be surprised if they take you up on an offer to pray for them.
Let me ask you something about that, because that's interesting. You using yourself as that example. So to me, I'm guessing there's a segment of Planned Parenthood workers or whatever, people who have been in the industry a while, and they would recognize you and say, "That's Abby. We know her. She used to be a worker, blah, blah, blah." So you're kind of marked. But I would think there's a lot of abortion workers who have no idea who you are.
Yeah, a
So
lot.
when you're out there, you're not identifying yourself, right? You're just saying what you just said, which is, hey, good morning. I'm going to be out here praying. And you're not saying, I'm Abby Johnson. I used to run an abortion facility. You don't need to do this, where you're just, because I think most of the viewers and the listeners are saying, well, I mean, she's Abby Johnson.
Well, she's Abby Johnson. No, I
Yeah,
don't do
I
that,
can't do that.
actually. I don't. Now, if they come and talk to me, then I'll be like, oh, hey, and I'll start talking to them. And then at that time, I'll be like, hey, I used to run a Planned Parenthood. Like, I know what it's like to work in there. I know it's hard, whatever. And then I'll start sharing my story if I have time. But if I'm just standing out there, I'm not. And that's one of the things I'm saying. Like, if you ran into your friend at the store, you wouldn't be like, hey, how are you doing? How are your parents? How's everything going? What's been going on last week? What's it like? You wouldn't just like dump everything that you could possibly say to somebody like in 10 seconds of time, right? It's different. Working with an abortion clinic worker, reaching out to an abortion clinic worker is very different than reaching out to a woman who's walking in to have an abortion appointment. Because chances are that woman who's walking in to have an abortion appointment, that's all you got. You've got 15, 20, 30 seconds, maybe, right? So you've got to dump everything out, all your best things, right? All the best things that come out of your mouth, you've got to say them right then in that 15 to 30 seconds. But with a worker, they're going into work literally almost every day. So you can be there when they go to work. You can be there when they go to lunch. You can be there when they get off of work. And you can start developing that relationship with them and get to know them. And that's exactly what one particular person did at the Coalition for Life. When I worked at Planned Parenthood, she was like, oh, I'm getting to know her. And that's what she did with me. And she was there every single day that I went to work. And I got to kind of know her through the fence. And I remember thinking, if there wasn't this fence, between us, it's like, I think we would be friends. I think I would like her. And that's a weakness, right? That's a weakness of an abortion clinic worker. When they start to like, and I mean weakness in the very best way.
Yeah.
When they start to like the people on the sidewalk, when they start to relate to them, when they start thinking you're not the enemy anymore, that's when they're getting closer and closer and closer to joining you. So once you break down that like us versus them, that like polarizing thing that Steve was talking about, and once they start not seeing themselves as working for the savior of women and seeing you as the enemy of women, and once that starts to shift balance a little bit, because that's what you want. You want it to completely flip, right? Where they see themselves as the enemy of women, where they see the abortion clinic as the enemy of women, and you is actually helping to save them. Once that starts to flip a little bit, that's when you start seeing movement and you start seeing women leave the industry.
It seems like it would help to not rush it, because when you watch the movie, everything, the whole 10 years, it gets a nice tidy bow put on it in the span of 2 hours. And real life just isn't, sped up like that. It's not a time lapse type of thing. I can think of in particular at the local Planned Parenthood where my 40 Days for Life vigil is. There was a woman who worked there, and to my knowledge, I don't have any knowledge that she left her job, but there was a relationship that was developed such that when that particular Planned Parenthood went to abortions only, this was no 3%, no 4% of what we do as abortions. It was all abortions. And that bothered her. And we got the phone call from her. And it was really, I think, because obviously we want the abortion workers to leave as soon as possible, but there's something to be said for letting things play out and letting God do it and not feeling like we have to be the ones that are making it happen by our own willpower. Yeah,
you're 100% right. So, okay, so I'll give you an example. So we all the time, so we have an intake manager and then there were none. And her name is Chris, and she's amazing. And she talks to every single person that contacts our hotline. or that emails in or text or however they contact us. And she's the first person that they all go through. Chris is at all times talking to, I would say, at least 5 workers at all times who have been talking to her, some of them for over a year. And they're just like, I want to leave, but I can't, I don't know. Like, I've got kids. I'm scared to pull the trigger, right? Some of them live in really difficult parts of the country to get a job. Some of them live in very rural areas. Some of them live in very, very liberal areas. And so it's going to be difficult for them to get a job. If they say like, well, I left Planned Parenthood because I don't believe in abortion anymore. That's not going to be something they're going to be able to say in a job interview.
Is it credible? Let's go the opposite direction. Is it, when you mention the liberal areas, do you ever advise them while they're still at Planned Parenthood to use the Planned Parenthood job as intrigue? Like, you're standing up for women. Yeah. And then they don't have to know the reason that they left their new employer.
I mean, we've had to do all kinds of things. I mean, we have a professional resume writer on staff with us, and
that's great.
He's amazing, but we have to have him simply because he doesn't just do the resume, but he works with the clients on interviewing techniques, skills. He'll do, role playing with them, like role playing interviews. How do you answer certain questions, particularly the questions around where you previously worked? But I mean, we've had very qualified people come to us, particularly like executive level. These people should have been able to land a job like no problem, right? They've been working in development. They've been running various operational programs. I mean, they're very qualified. They have master's degrees. They should not have a problem getting a job. And some of them have been without a job for over a year. And so it doesn't make any sense, except that they have Planned Parenthood on their resume. And so what's interesting, though, is that Jim, our resume guy, he'll start helping them kind of figure out, okay, maybe we don't put Planned Parenthood on there. They may come to us at just a complete of total exasperation. They're like, I've been out. I don't need your help quitting. I need your help finding another job. And they're like, because I've been trying for over a year and nobody will hire me. And so, we have headhunters, we have Jim, our resume guy, we have, professional people trying to help them find jobs. And what's interesting is that if we change the like at Planned Parenthood where I worked, it's Planned Parenthood Health Center, but also another DBA we had was Bryan Health Center. And so like sometimes we'll say, well, did you ever call yourself something else? And they may say, yeah, like the Syracuse Health Center or something. So we'll just put that on their resume instead of Planned Parenthood. We'll just put like Syracuse Health Center, and immediately they'll start getting phone calls immediately.
So nothing shows the stigma of Planned Parenthood more than that.
Yeah. And honestly, that's what we want.
Oh, yeah.
We want there to be a stigma. We want it to be so bad that people would go, oh my gosh, no, that is a dead end place, right? If you work there, you don't want to work there. It's terrible to work there. And you don't want to work there because you'll never get hired anywhere else, right? Like, we want the stigma to be so bad surrounding the abortion industry that nobody wants to go work there. But I mean, it is so much about timing. We have another woman who recently contacted us. She's very high up in Planned Parenthood. And she's like, I'm a single mom. I got kids. I live in a place where I know it's going to be difficult to get another job. And she's like, so every day, like, I can't leave until I know I have another job secured. So we're, working with her on that. But she's like, every day I feel nauseous. I walk into work. I hate my job. She's like, but I go in, I kneel down by my desk and I just pray that God will get me through the day. And and she's like she's like a new Christian. And so we're trying to work with her. Chris is working with her. Like, you don't have to go to a place that you believe is evil. Like, we can help you. We'll help you. But a lot of these people, we are seeing kind of, what's interesting is we are seeing kind of like a spiritual awakening among clinic workers, which is really interesting. We're having a
Is
lot
that
of
tied to Roe overturned? Are they questioning that which
I
has
don't
always
know.
been?
I don't know, but it's been within really the past few months. We've just had a lot of workers contact us that are like, I just gave my life to Christ. I just became a Christian. I just started going back to church, whatever it may be. And they're like, and I just know I can't work here anymore. But they don't have that strong faith to just take that step. Right. And so we're trying to encourage them that we will help you. We're not going to let you fall. We're not going to let you be homeless, like whatever it is. But it's hard. If they haven't had that strong foundation, it's hard for them to just take that next step.
Let me ask you something. I want to ask if the number one reason that they leave is moral, because when you left, I remember you were filling out your resignation and you had in there reason for leaving. And you asked me, like, well, what should I put reason for leaving? I was like, you're moving on. You and your husband want to have another baby. You appreciate your season there. Nothing that would be a red flag. You ignored that and put reason
And I
for
threw up a
leaving,
big red flag. Yeah.
strong moral objection to abortion, and I was like, it's gonna get some attention, It's like the most dramatic statement besides going into like Moloch, and every Holocaust in the history of the world.
You are sacrificing babies
Yeah.
here.
The blood of the innocents will not be silent in my heart anymore. You're just like, hey, just a simple I'm leaving works. So yours was moral, and they found that out, and so did we via a lawsuit. But what is that the number one thing? Because obviously Planned Parenthood will say, there's no spiritual awakening, Abby, with all these workers last few months. Just they're disgruntled. They want another job. I mean, how many people are like, I can't stand my boss, and this place kind of creeps me out, versus I think this is wrong and I can't be a part of it.
So I tell you what, there are four primary reasons that people leave, and kind of in order. The
And
first
we'll put these on the screen. So if you want to elaborate, go for it.
Yeah. Okay. So the first reason that people leave is that something terrible has happened to a mom. So they have witnessed something just brutal happen to a woman.
Wow.
They have seen just one too many perforated uteruses. They watched a woman almost bleed to death. They did witness a woman die. We do have workers that are part of our program that have witnessed death inside of the clinic, death of women. They were handing hush money to women who became septic. All these different things. So something happened to a woman and they were finally just like, no, that's
the number one reason.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Number two reason used to be that something happened to a baby, but now it's a little different. And this has really been, I would say, in the last 2 years, we have seen this huge shift. Number two reason that people leave is because the women that come into the clinic are not what they thought it was going to be. The women coming into the clinic are the reason that workers are leaving. And so I'll explain that. These workers get into the clinic. Nobody goes to work at Planned Parenthood because they want to perform abortions. I mean, that's not why they get involved. They all get involved because they think they're going to be helping But what's happened in the past 2 years is that the women are coming in and they're so hard-hearted toward their children in the womb. And these
the women seeking the abortions.
Yes. And the workers are so bothered by what they're seeing with the women coming in that they're leaving. So they are seeing women coming in 2 years' time. They may see a woman 6 to 8 times for abortions. So definitely this increased use of abortion as birth control. The activism behind the abortion industry is bothering workers. You know, they just wanted to get in there and provide health care. And now they're being forced to go to all these rallies. They're being forced to put their names on petitions. They're being forced to donate money out of their paycheck to, you know, all these PACs and C4s and stuff like that.
Did you have to do that when you worked there, or
Mhm.
is that a post-Roe thing where now
No, it's not a
everybody-
post-Roe thing. I mean,
Okay.
not everybody was expected to do it, but certainly the managers were.
Okay.
But now it seems like kind of everybody's expected to do it. And so these workers are just like, what in the world? Like I got in here to help women, but these women are coming here and this isn't an unfortunate crisis for them. These women seem to do this and they don't care. And they don't care if they're killing their baby. And they openly admit that they're killing their baby. And they get pictures of their ultrasound. And they want pictures and they laugh about killing their baby before they do it. And they keep pictures of their aborted babies in their wallet.
My gosh.
And they have abortion parties. And these workers are disgusted by it.
This is new for sure.
It is new. It is new. I did not see this when I worked at the clinic. But that would be the second reason why workers are leaving. And that's really something, Sean, when you have abortion clinic workers. Okay. So these are people who, some of them are piecing baby parts together for a living. Okay. These are some of the really people that have some of the most hardened hearts, okay, that you'll ever be around. And they're bothered by the coldness that they're seeing come into abortion clinics.
It's the opposite. I'm sure that's what the listener, the viewer is thinking. The opposite is or the way it used to be, I guess. The women come in, they're scared, they're pressuring themselves, or they have some outside pressure, but they need a way out. And they don't want to be there. They're not celebrating it. They're not doing any of that. And that the workers then get them in and sink their teeth into them and say, abortion's going to save your life. You're going to love it. It's the greatest thing. You're standing up for women's rights. And they talk them into it. And, you know, an abortion-minded woman becomes, you know, post-abortive. And that's the process. And the villains mentally or in their behavior are the workers, of course. I've never heard you say this before. It's definitely a new thing. The abortion workers' morale is going into the toilet because the cynical nature of the women now seeking abortions. It sounds like the repeats have skyrocketed recently.
Oh, skyrocketed. We're hearing that from every worker that comes to us, that the repeat abortion rate is through the roof. And I think one of the reasons that there is this callousness is because of medication abortion.
Okay.
I think medication abortion, you know how we have definitive studies that tell us that pornography, that graphic violence and gaming and stuff like that, we know that actually changes the routing of your brain, right? It actually changes the different synapses in your brain and different, things like that. Like it reroutes your brain signals. I think that medication abortion can do the same thing for these women. I think that it does one of two things. I think that these women, when they're having these medication abortions and they're holding their babies or they're seeing their babies in the toilet and they're experiencing so much really violence, right? Violence against their child, but also it's very violent against their own body. I think that it desensitizes them. I think it either breaks them emotionally and mentally to see their body going through something that difficult, or it completely hardens them and desensitizes them. I met a woman just a couple months ago that in the past year, or she said between 2022 and 2023, she had gone through 5 medication abortions. 5.
Well,
And she said, I just used it as birth control. I would get pregnant like every other month. And I would just get the pills. You can get them in the mail now. So she said it was so easy and it was only $100 every time I would get them. And now she feels very regretful about that. But at the time, she was like, it was just really easy. And yeah, it hurt. And yeah, it was bad. But she was like, I didn't care about seeing my baby in the toilet. I didn't care what I was doing. And I think it does something to these women. If it doesn't emotionally devastate them, then I think the pendulum swings to the far other side. And I just think it creates this callousness within them. But I was going to say the third reason that we see is because something has happened to a baby. So something devastating has happened to a baby. So a baby was born alive and drowned, or the neck was broken, or, they saw just something devastating, or they went
is it
back.
ever just seeing the baby?
Yeah. Sometimes it's just, they went back to the POC room for the first time. They'd never seen anything like that before. And so they left. Sometimes they saw an ultrasound guided abortion like I did, and they left. So just different things, something with a baby. And then the last reason that people leave is because they just hated their work environment. They hated their supervisor, or they were just generally disgruntled. A lot of the people that leave, when they leave, they actually have positive things to say about their supervisor. Or they're like, I actually really liked the people I worked with. I liked my boss or whatever. I just hated what I did. So the idea that there's everybody that works there is disgruntled or hates their boss or something, that's just blatantly not true. Now, I will say there has been, over the past 3 years, there has been an uptick in, or really for the first time, actually, Planned Parenthood workers speaking out publicly about their dissatisfaction in the workplace. That was something that you just did not see until about 3 years ago. And it really started with a piece in the New York Times that exposed sort of this systemic racism among employees inside of Planned Parenthood. And then Alexis McGill Johnson, their current president, came out and said, yeah, we're not proud of our roots. Margaret Sanger was like a little bit of a racist, and we're not proud of that.
She said she didn't know her heart. Well, we
right.
know that she was a psycho lunatic eugenicist, but we don't really know her heart.
That really was kind of, you had all these workers coming out saying they are discriminating. Planned Parenthood discriminates against Black people in the workplace. And of course they do, because you look at their founder, and then you've got Alexis McGill Johnson coming out and saying, well, I mean, she was a little bit of a racist, but we're denouncing that now. And we're coming out, even though pro-lifers have been saying it for 50 years and we've been denying it for 50 years.
And
now we're going to come
2020, Everybody was a racist. And
Right,
not
that's
like
right.
diet.
Everybody was racist back then. Now, even though pro-lifers have been saying it and we've been calling them a liar for 50 years, now we're going to come out and say they were kind of right. And so that was really the first time. That was about 3 years ago. That was really the first time that there was this big kind of like a big public stance where their employees were coming out and saying it sucks here, right? This is not good. Now we see all over California Planned Parenthood workers trying to unionize. And they're talking about the terrible work conditions and how they're being treated and how their employees are being, or how the clients are being treated. And just how the working conditions are bad. And they want the donors to know about how bad it is. In fact, I just got this the other day from this letter from, it just has San Diego, California as the return address, but it was sent to our mailbox and then there were none. And it was just on this plain piece of paper from I guess a clinic of Planned Parenthood in San Diego. And it just says, to whom it may concern. And it says, FYI, lots and lots are leaving or want to leave Planned Parenthood. Reasons. They kind of go into how the CEO is making millions of dollars and all this kind of stuff, and they're being treated bad. It's the staff trying to unionize. See our Instagram, PPPSW_union. Too many donors are not aware of how bad the work environment is. And it says, please notify press. And then it said, the last one says, lots and lots of staff take mental health leave due to the stress. And so it was basically like this letter, like, here's what you need to do.
It's just like whistleblower.
Yes. Like, here, I'm going to do it anonymously, but here's everything you need to tell the public about what's going on inside of Planned Parenthood. We did not used to get letters like this before, but this is not the first one that we've gotten. So the workers are being much more interactive with us now. We send once a month, we send a little postcard or a game or something every month. We send one into every abortion clinic across the country. And we sent in this little bingo card a couple months ago. And it was all the squares were different. It was like, if you haven't reported statutory rape, here, stamp your bingo card.
Oh, okay.
If you work at a clinic that doesn't properly sterilize instruments, if you failed an inspection report, it was like all these different things on the bingo squares. And so at the bottom, we said, if you got a bingo in any direction, contact us and we'll send you a gift card.
Oh, my word. And
we had a bunch of workers contact us and tell us, and this was their real emails, right? This is their real emails. Some of them, their work emails, contacting us, telling us all the things that they got in their bingo to like I got this one, this one, this one. And that was my bingo. And so we sent them gift cards. Like we sent them like $5-10 gift cards to Walmart or whatever.
And they're using their work email?
Yes.
Saying, yeah, I did this.
Yeah. And now they're like in conversation with us. They're in conversation with Chris. So like we would have never had that 5 years ago.
That's a great idea that I want none of our listeners to do.
Yes, don't do it. Don't mail anything in. Don't let us do it. Don't mail anything in.
Let's go ahead, Steve. Go ahead.
If any of those bingo participants happen to be listening to the podcast, you can double up on your gift card by sharing this story and qualifying for one of the top 5 best Abby Johnson stories and get a copy of the book and the movie.
That's right.
Exactly.
I'll send you another gift card.
Okay, this is way off topic, and then I want to get to the negative stuff, what not to say. What are the gift cards to? Like, is it like Chick-fil-A? Like, where are you sending?
Yeah,
people?
We had different ones. We kind of looked up where they were from, and we were like, okay, what's like popular around here? So it's like,
Buc-ee's.
If it was like in New York, we're not going to get them like a Chick-fil-A, but
maybe
like Tom Thumb or Tim Hortons or
Yeah.
like Walmart's always good, not Target. We got none to Target, everybody.
Okay.
Just let you know.
The good little.
Nothing
We
to
bought 'em-
Target. Okay.
We got them LA Dodger tickets.
Exactly.
And
That's right.
Target
And then made a
gift card.
donation to that Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence.
Sister
in their
Perpetual
name.
Indulgence gift card. Not going to be a bestseller this
No,
Christmas.
probably not.
The
Probably
Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence gift card. This is not a big seller. Not a big seller.
No, not a hit.
It's like they had Tickle Me Elmo, and then Saturday Night Live did a skit, and they're like, "Do you know the worst selling product? Tickle Me, Frank Stallone." Had like a little Frank Stallone doll.
God bless Norm Macdonald.
Norm Macdonald. I knew Steve knew that skit.
Yeah.
Google it. Google it. You'll love it. Okay, so basically be normal, say good morning, let them come to you, develop that relationship over months, years, and
Sometimes, yeah.
and know that's what's so awesome about these top 4 reasons people leave. All of y'all need to know that that's going on in the background. Okay. And then there's some people that like working there and there's not in the middle of this drama, but the environment, it helps you, I think, have a bit more compassion and patience. This requires a lot of patience. Okay. So
and
we can
let me say this too.
Go ahead.
You don't know what's going on inside of that clinic. I'm sure there were days that people out on the sidewalk, they were like, she's psycho. Okay. Like she's psychotic, because some days Sean's like, yes.
And her mom is probably a nut for sure.
Yes.
I mean, that stuff, the Doug, your parents, I didn't know anything about you. I thought your parents were like these huge liberals that were probably on the board of like PETA,
Oh, yeah. Right.
What's funny to say that out loud. If
Yeah.
your
No,
mom
like,
watches
but you just like, there were some days where I would wake up and I would be like, you know what? Today is going to be a good day for me and the protesters. We're going to start off the day great. And
the protesters. That's just such a bad
every
way to
day
start
it
your
was on my
day.
mind. Like every day when I drove up to work, it was on my mind. Like, okay.
You didn't say it's going to be a good day between me and the peaceful, dedicated prayer warriors.
No. No, that wasn't in my language. That wasn't in my lexicon. So I would every day, on the way to work, I had to make a decision like, okay, how's it going to go today? Like, am I going to start off angry or am I going to have a good day? And so, most mornings I would say I tried to start off like, good morning. Like, I'm going to start off the day good. But then by lunch, I may be like flipping them off when I come out to my car. And they're probably like, wait a minute. Like just 3 hours ago, she drove up, smiled at us and told us good morning, right? Like what in the world? But you have no idea like what went on in those 3 hours inside of that clinic. Like you don't know what took place. You don't know if inside of that clinic in those 3 hours, I just dealt with a phone call from a woman who's threatening to sue us because we left part of her baby in her uterus and she's now in the hospital septic, right? And now I'm having to talk to my supervisor about how much money we're going to give her to keep quiet. So like, you just have no idea what's taking place. Or maybe my job that morning was to wash all the bloody towels from the abortion day the day before, right? And that's a crap job, right? So I've been dealing with bleach and trying to get blood out of towels all morning, right? You have no idea what's going on in there. So sometimes you may be like, these workers are nuts. They're so rude to us, blah, blah, blah. But trust me, what they're dealing with in that clinic, it is so draining to them. And it's such an unhappy place to be that you cannot expect them to come out chipper. You cannot expect them to come out and be like, let's be best friends, right? Like, let's have a good chat by the fence. Like, it's probably not going to be that. It's probably not going to be that way. And so being understanding of that and being sort of almost empathetic to that and being like, I know you may have had a hard day. Like, I get that. I just want to let you know, like, I've been out here praying for you and I really care about you. And, if you ever decide you want to leave and find another job, like, I just want to let you know we can help, or there's help for you at abortionworker.com. Just something like that.
What you want to go through your top 4 since we use that number that you could do more. I have my list, but I want to hear it from you of just what not to say. And then if you have one, maybe use a horrible story of how what not to say had bad consequences.
Yeah. Okay. So the first thing I would say, one of the things that I think we hear a lot from the people that come to us that they mention, like, that makes them really mad, is when people outside will say something like, um, they'll kind of like right off the bat, they'll kind of challenge their work. So listen, I'm all about challenging people. Okay. Like, you need to challenge their beliefs. You need to challenge them kind of where they are. And especially if they're stuck in a wrong belief pattern, the only way to get them out of that is to really challenge that. But not if you have not developed some kind of relationship with that person. That is the fastest way to get them to shut down. And so, there's been a lot of examples of this where we've had people contact us and they're like, this worker just freaked out on me. And all I said to her was that, I just want to help her get a job where she can actually help people. And she just turned around and just completely freaked out and was like, I am helping people. You're doing nothing. You're just standing here. I'm the one actually helping people. And I'm like, yeah, like, I understand where you were going with that. Like, I understand why you said it, but to them, they do feel like they're helping people. And so that's probably not how you want to.
And that's a normal, it should be assumed that this is outside the just dumb, you're going to burn in hell. Why burn in hell when you don't have to? Quit killing babies.
Yeah,
this
don't
is
say
like,
stuff like that. Yeah, that's obviously.
This is something like a well-meaning person would say.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you don't need to do this. You could help people.
Yeah. And they're like, I am helping people. What do you mean? Right. So that, and I would say something that we don't want you to do. And I don't think 40 Days wants you to do this either. And we at And Then There Were None do not want you to do this. Don't mail things in.
No. I've said this a billion times. It's like you want to hide the address of Planned Parenthood.
Yeah. Please don't mail things in. I know you want to.
Especially in our current FBI, DOJ, like target. Like,
please don't. I know you think you have the words that are going to convince an abortion clinic worker to leave. Just like everybody has a poem that's going to end abortion. You don't.
You don't.
You don't have the song that's going to end abortion either. You don't. Okay. And you don't have the words to write on a card that's going to convince that whole clinic to quit either. Okay.
From a stranger in the mail.
It doesn't happen that way. All right. So one thing you need to know is that we do have a working relationship with the FBI. We do have a working relationship with contacts there. They know that we send things into clinics. They know that we have this database. They know that the things that we're sending in are not dangerous, that, the FBI can call us and say, hey, what are you sending in this year? Can you send us a sample of everything you're sending in so that if we get a phone call, we can say, nope, we've already seen it. We approved it, whatever. We have that relationship. You as an individual do not. And so I'll give you an example of this.
It also checks the box that you don't have to do this because, and then there were none is doing it for you.
We're doing it. I'll give you an example. We sent in these little tiny bottles, and we knew this was going to make them mad, which was kind of one of the reasons I wanted to do it. But they were these little teeny tiny, like 1 inch tall little glass bottles. Okay. And so we rolled up a website, a special website that we had created from And Then There Were None. And we put these little rolled up pieces of paper inside the bottle. And I knew it was going to make them mad because I knew they were going to work really, really hard to get the message out. And they were going to see it was just us. So anyway, so that's exactly what happened. And so when they found out it was us, there were a couple clinics that called the FBI.
Where was this? Can you say?
We actually don't know what clinic it was. The FBI didn't tell us.
Okay.
What clinic it was, but there were at least 2 that called the FBI complaining. Okay. One of them said that inside the envelope, there was white powder inside the envelope. Okay. So when they called the local police, they came out with a hazmat squad.
Oh, no.
I mean, bomb squad, all kinds of stuff to the clinic, shut everything down, took samples of the white powder, the mysterious white powder. Okay, all this stuff. Then, of course, that triggered a call to the FBI. So the FBI, the liaison that called us, already knew who we were, watched Unplanned, like big fan, whatever. He already knew. He already knew who we were, and he knew that we did this, right? Because the FBI knows that we send letters in. So he already knew that we did this. He knew it was from us. When the police got their analysis back of the white powder, well, it was cookie crumbs. Cookie crumbs. So
very dangerous.
It was honestly
poisonous.
Probably somebody at their desk at Planned Parenthood, like eating cookies, and some of it fell in the envelope.
It was like a powdered donut.
Yeah, it was like powdered sugar.
I'm curious how that test went. Do they have their substance detector and we're going to put it in and then like, wait, beep, beep, beep. And then it flashes up on the marquee like cookie crumbs.
I don't know.
We've got oatmeal raisin over here.
Some agent's like, let me test it. Like dips his finger in.
If you were sending raisin cookies, that would be reason to alert the authorities. Those are
I agree.
Not good.
Anything with raisins.
If it's like, a good sugar cookie, you know, you crumble that up, all of a sudden it's anthrax.
Exactly. So it was crazy. So that's why we don't want you sending stuff in. Now, there are times where we partner with groups and we partner with a couple groups on Valentine's Day. And those groups will send in flowers to different abortion clinics. And we tell them, though, what to write on the card. They send in the flowers. We know what locations are getting flowers, stuff like that. So it's kind of monitored by us when we do it. And we partner with groups to do that because we can't afford to send flowers into every abortion clinic. And so each group will take on an individual clinic. And so we do that. And that has actually been very, very successful, sending flowers in. So, we do projects like that, but we never ask anybody individually to send stuff in. So please don't. Please also do not ever, ever walk into an abortion clinic and think, oh, I'm just going to hand them some literature, or I'm just going to hand them this pizza, or just don't. It's never a good idea. You can be arrested for trespassing, even if you had good intentions in mind. Just don't do it.
That should go without saying, but I'm glad you said it.
It should, but
part of number 2.
I mean, unfortunately, we kind of see this uptick in people thinking that trespassing is cool again. And it's just not. And
we do not have the DOJ for that right now.
No,
I mean,
we don't.
You could go to prison for 11 years.
And people are in prison right now. So, and we don't want you in prison. We want you on the sidewalk, saving lives. So that's where we need you to be. So yeah, I mean, I would say,
So number 2 is don't walk in and
don't walk in,
don't mail anything.
Don't mail anything. Yeah. I would say number 3, if someone does contact you from a clinic, you need to keep that confidential. Do not go to your listserv and send out an email and say, oh my gosh, I had a clinic worker contact me today. Or, oh my gosh, the director, Susie, just contacted me. This is so exciting. It is so exciting when a worker contacts you. It is super exciting. But it also puts that worker in a very vulnerable position. I mean, somebody was like, I was like telling a friend of mine about this letter I got from this San Diego place. And they were like, oh my gosh, you need to post that online so that everybody can see it. And I was like, no.
Unbelievable.
I was like, no, I'm not going to post that, because whoever wrote this, their director could recognize that handwriting and could fire them immediately. I don't know who this is. Like, it could be a doctor for all I know. I don't know who it is. And I'm not willing to risk that person's confidentiality to put this online and put them at risk like that. I'm not going to do that. So when a worker reaches out to you, they're reaching out to you because for whatever reason, they trust you, and it's a big deal if a worker, I don't think some people understand what a big freaking deal it is for a worker to reach out to you. They have been taught and groomed and have been told by law enforcement, by the FBI, by U.S. Marshals. They have been trained. They have been taught to believe that you guys are dangerous, that you are the enemy, that you want to kill them, that you want to blow up their clinics, that you want to permanently maim them. So if they are taking the step to trust you enough to reach out to you to say, I need help, you need to take that very seriously, and you need to protect them. And you need to protect their identity, and you need to protect their confidentiality. And I would say with that, you need to understand that you probably don't have all the tools you need to help them. And that's okay. You don't have to, right? You don't have to be a counselor. You don't have to be certified in trauma counseling or healing. You don't have to know how to find them a job. You don't have to know how to write their resume. You don't have to be a professional headhunter. You don't have to be an attorney. One thing I would strongly suggest people do or do not just go after them for information.
Mm-hmm.
I know that everybody wants to know every dirty detail that's in these abortion clinics. And we're going to get that information. If you refer them to us, we're going to get all that information. And we're going to record it. We're going to put it down in our database. And if there is anything illegal going on, we're going to connect them directly to an attorney. We don't even want to know about it.
Yeah.
We want an attorney. We want there to be attorney-client privilege. We want them to be protected as much as possible. These people could have witnessed murders. Some of these workers have witnessed things that could literally put them in prison.
Right.
For the rest of their life. You do not want that disclosed to you.
Right. That's what people don't get. They don't.
Because if that is disclosed to you, now you have a responsibility to do something with that. If somebody discloses to you that they participated in a murder, now you are responsible for that information and what you do with it. You don't want to be responsible for that. You don't want to do that. You want to be the safe place for these workers to come to. You don't want to have to be the narc. You know what I'm saying?
Right. You
just want to be the safe person. I don't want to be that person either. So we want to, but yeah, if an abortionist is hacking up babies after they're born alive, I want that abortionist to be put in prison. I want him to lose his license, right? And I want that clinic worker to be a whistleblower. But
Right.
one thing everybody needs to understand is that they don't receive whistleblower protection if they have told everybody and their mama about everything that they've seen inside of the clinic. So
Or if
you
they've
are
told you
hurting,
one thing
they're
and you
hurting
blab it.
their chances of receiving a proffer, of receiving like an immunity deal. You're hurting their chances. You're hurting the chances of actually seeing justice served for these moms and their babies if you're trying to get all of this information out of them. So don't do it.
Don't do
You
it.
don't need to do that.
You know, the whole blabbing it to the world and praising God publicly and not privately. You know, I remember when you came over, you resigned. And then there's this long period of time, 3 or 4 weeks, before we got the lawsuit from
Right.
Planned Parenthood. And that is what made it public. You did a local
Right.
CBS News affiliate story.
Which we thought would go nowhere.
Nowhere. And then like 4 days later, you're on O'Reilly. But
Yes.
I remember so many people emailing me saying, she converted a month ago and you didn't make it public. You didn't say anything. You didn't. And we're like, no. Number one, I knew there was going to be legal action. But you were actually living a normal life, looking for a normal job, like at a doctor's office and just doing all this stuff. And then Planned Parenthood, to silence you, outed you and then handed you a megaphone. And so, ironically, in my situation with a former worker, personally, it was Planned Parenthood who blabbed it to the world. She converted because she saw us do an abortion and it scared her. Well, okay, great. Let's interview her and ask her what happened. You know, so that was beautiful about your situation. But that is something we have harped on people about. And it's something, even when Ramona Trevino came over, I was so sort of cynical and on guard towards this. Our local leader there is a great guy. He said, this is a beautiful story. She's going to convert. And I'm like, no, she's not. You know, but somebody has to be that, has to have that disposition, because there's stages to this, as we've talked about. There's the relationship. There's actually resigning. I mean, there's we're here for you. You trust us. You're resigning. This is the plan post resignation. And none of this is public until the worker, the former worker, is comfortable, if ever, in sharing their story. And I think that's what a lot of people don't realize is most abortion workers don't run around and share their story. They move on with their lives.
No, I mean, we've had almost 700 workers come through our ministry. And these are people who are pro-life. These are people who are active in, a lot of them active in our discipleship program. A lot of them, most of them have been through our healing program. I would say out of the almost 700, I would say maybe 60 have spoken publicly. Yeah. I mean, less than 10%. So, and when they do speak, not only is it a requirement that they go through, most of the time, it's a requirement that they go through our healing program, but also we have a pretty extensive media training program for them. And, it was just it was a weird thing how it worked out with me. I had been trained in media by Planned Parenthood. God rolled out he kind of opened this door in a very odd way. And so, I just kind of moved through it and it ended up being fine. But it's not ideal for most people. Right. And so, but I think, a lot, I mean, I'll be honest, we had a worker who left, and, she um she was in an active lesbian relationship, and that's okay. We will help anybody who wants to leave. That's okay. I mean, our goal is to help her come to Christ and to help her give up any sinful behavior, right?
Right.
And to cling to God. And so, and that has happened in our ministry. Um we had a gay couple come to us one time, two men, and one of them completely ended up rejecting the homosexual lifestyle, and
Wow.
actually became Catholic.
Wow.
And yeah, and just lives a chaste lifestyle. And so amazing, right? And so that kind of stuff happens. But this woman was, actively in a lesbian relationship, and but the local pregnancy center found out that she had left, not through us. She ended up going to the pregnancy center and telling them her story, because she wanted to. She wanted to start, kind of letting people know. And that pregnancy center started having her speak. And it did not go well. It did not go well. Here's this woman who is living in let's just be honest, a very evil lifestyle. She is, she's not in a state of grace. She's, you know, openly cooperating in something that goes against God's design. She's, not taking any opportunity to heal, and confront some of the things in her life that have led to the decisions that she's making now. She starts speaking, and it's a disaster.
Mm.
And that's not what we want. We would have never put her out speaking like that, in the state that she was in. And so that's, but that's unfortunately what happens. We are not here to see these workers as our victory. They are not our victory. They are God's victory. And so, yes, we do. Yeah, I'm so happy when a worker is like, I really want to share my story. Like, that makes me so happy when they decide that, right? But that is a work of the Holy Spirit. That's not a work of Abby Johnson. That's not a work of Sean Carney. That's a work of the Holy Spirit. And they have to be convicted of that. It's not me doing the convincing. Unfortunately for me, it was Planned Parenthood and the Associated Press. But
yeah.
Most of the time, that's not the case. And so we want them to be really at a place where they feel strong enough, because and I know it's tough. When you're a former clinic worker and you go out and you start telling your story, you think that you're going to be met with just praise and clapping and so happy. But we just had a worker speak at a pro-life event. And when she was introduced, there were literally people that booed as she got up on stage. And she was shocked, but we had kind of prepared her for what she might expect from some people in the pro-life movement. And so she was sad about it, but she understood because we had kind of prepared her for that. She was fine. She called me later and we prayed about it, and she felt, strong or whatever. But if she had been like just out of the clinic and goes up on a stage and people that she thinks are going to love her, like, boo, you suck. Right. Yeah. She would have been like bawling, running off the stage. So it just takes time.
Okay. As we, it takes time. As we wrap up, statistically, nobody, we've given these great guidelines, what to say, what not to say, and a little goes a long way. with what you laid out for people. But statistically, most people they're not going to have any contact with the worker that's meaningful. You know how it is on the day-to-day. It's they go in, you're out there, they ignore you, and that's actually successful. The abortion industry, they should just train them, ignore them.
Yes.
But even when that happens, talk about the impact that just the quiet presence can have, because people think these workers don't care, they're cynical. But a minute ago when you said, I woke up and I said, I will have a good day with the protesters, and we would have no idea. I would have been like, Abby Johnson, care less that we're here. I mean, we have no impact. I definitely would have thought that. Because you're tough. You were tough. You're tough now, but it even had an impact on you. So what do you say just to encourage people like, don't think that you're not converting workers?
So you're definitely making a difference. I mean, like I said, I thought about the presence of people outside of my clinic all day, every day when I was at work. I mean, they have CCTV for a reason. It's so that they can always be looking at what you're doing. And they're always zooming in on you. They're always looking at who's there. They're always paying attention. They pay much more attention to people on the sidewalk than they do the patients walking in.
Wow.
They're always focused on what is happening outside of that building. So, they're worried about the people walking off. They're more worried about the people walking off than they are the people walking in. And that is still true today, still just as true today as it was when I worked there almost 15 years ago. They're very concerned about money walking out the door. And people on the sidewalk represent money walking out the door for them. And that's a good thing. So, we always ask, how do you hear about us at And Then There Were None? And our latest statistics show that about a little over half of workers come to us because they heard about us on the sidewalk.
Wow.
So, you guys being out there and just saying, hey, if you want to leave, go to abortionworker.com. If you want another job, go to abortionworker.com. If you hate working here, go to abortionworker.com. If you've ever thought about leaving, go to abortionworker.com. That's all you have to say. You don't have to be the expert at this, right? You don't have to be. I'm not the expert at working at a pregnancy center, right? I don't have to be. That's not what I do. I don't have to be an expert on hanging up mini blinds, right? That's not what I do. But I'm pretty dang good at working with people who leave the abortion industry. And because of that, you guys don't have to be. So, so that it should be a load off for you guys.
Yeah, it is. That's what I say.
You
It's
don't
a big check the
have
box
to do that. And, one of the great things about, and I think one of the things that finally got people to go, oh, okay, I guess it is good that workers leave. We've, out of the workers that have left, when workers leave, a lot of times they want to turn around and do something to shut down their old clinic. And so we work with various, well, we don't work with them, but we report to various agencies on different, violations, things that have been done, DEA, OSHA, all these different, medical boards, nursing boards, things like that. And because of that, because of the reports that have been made, our workers have been able to shut down 44 clinics.
Awesome.
So the work matters, but not even just the physical lives that are saved, not just the abortion clinics that are closed, but guys, this is almost 700 souls that have been saved. And that to me is really, that's the incredible thing of what God's doing. And so, yeah, so we want to be that resource for you guys. We have people call us on our hotline all the time. There is a specific, I can't remember what extension it is, but there's an extension on our 800 number that is just for sidewalk counselors. So if you're out on the sidewalk and you're like, I don't know. We got a weird situation out here with a worker or with a client or we don't know what to do here. We need some assistance. You can call our 888 number, 888-570-5501. If you call that number and you wait for the sidewalk counselor extension, it'll ring to our hotline and we can answer any questions you may have. We've talked to workers directly on the sidewalk through our hotline. So if there's questions right then, and that worker's like, well, okay, maybe I'm not sure if I believe you, you can hit that hotline up right then and we'll talk to them.
That's great.
I got a question. This is a little bit, I know we're wrapping here, but I think I'd be remiss if I didn't ask this because we get this question a lot from various pro-lifers in the post-Roe world. And they've got really sort of a two-part question. The first one is, do we know how Planned Parenthood is managing to stay open in some of these states like Texas and Alabama and Idaho that are largely abortion free? And then I guess the second part of that is, in the post-Roe world, as we see the administration right now, like proliferating abortion pills at Walgreens and at CVS and at places other than Planned Parenthood seems to be getting behind that. Are they just being a good team player for team abortion, or why would it be in Planned Parenthood's best interest to support all of the variety of non-Planned Parenthood methods of distribution of abortion pills?
Yeah, those are actually two really great questions, Steve. So, answer the first question. We know that Planned Parenthood since 2007 has been heavily funded by the Justice Fund, which is essentially a slush fund for Planned Parenthood that is funded by Warren Buffett's foundation. So he funds that to the tune of $30 to $40 million a year. And he has made it very clear that he will fund it even higher than that if necessary. I think it will be even higher now that Roe has been overturned. So what we know is happening right now is a lot of these facilities where, like in Texas, for instance, where abortion is legally illegal, a lot of these clinics are now referring patients to, let's say, California or Virginia or, somewhere else. What we have been told by former workers is that they are actually getting referral dollars from the Justice Fund every time they refer a patient to a facility out of state that does perform abortion. So that's one way that they're getting their money, that they're keeping their money up. But I can't imagine this is going to, this is just going to be unending. Yeah. I think right now, they're biding their time. I think that they are really crossing their fingers and hoping that there's going to be maybe another opening on the Supreme Court happen in the next year. I think they're just crossing their fingers and they are just really praying that there's going to be another Roe come before the Supreme Court and they're going to get something similar to Roe back. There's going to be some sort of codification of abortion in the United States again. And I think they're just really biding their time until that happens and just kind of crossing their fingers. And I think the other clinics, along with Warren Buffett, I think they're helping to sort of offset the loss. That's what we're hearing right now.
That makes sense.
The second question you asked was what again?
It was just where you see the administration.
Oh, the Planned Parenthood behind abortion.
Yeah.
Yes. I would say there's no movement more unified in purpose and campaigns and decision making than the abortion movement. And so, on one hand, when the abortion pill came out kind of through the mail and kind of over the counter ish, but behind the counter, you would expect Planned Parenthood, because of this is going to devastate them financially. They were charging $800 for women to get the abortion pill from them, and $600 of that was pure profit. So you're expecting them to be like, oh, this is terrible, right? Like, and coming up with some excuse as to why this is a bad idea. But yet here they are. They're out in the media saying this is a huge win for women. This is great, right? So how does that make sense? It's financially devastating for them, yet they're cheering that this is a great thing. And I think, number one, yes, they always, the pro-abortion movement will always, 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 no matter what, show a unified front. But the other thing that I think we need to recognize, and I think we all do because we're all Christians that understand kind of the spiritual battle that we're up against. But I think the fact that Planned Parenthood and these other abortion providers were really cheering and super excited for this just shows that this is so far beyond a monetary gain for them. This is not just about money. Everybody that says, oh, abortion, it's just about money. They do it for money. They do it for money. They don't just do it for money. They do it because at the root of this is really child sacrifice. At the root of this is that they want to destroy the image of God. They want to destroy families. That's what this is about, right? This is about the destruction of human beings. And so they're willing to lose money to kill children. They're willing to do anything. They're willing to, to be in the red. They're willing to fire people. They're willing to do whatever they have to do to ensure that the child sacrifice is continuing, and it's continuing at a rapid rate. And that's why you don't see these clinics, that's why you don't see any Planned Parenthood clinics voluntarily becoming now all family planning clinics, right? No, you don't see that. That's why you see an increase in Planned Parenthood clinics becoming all abortion clinics.
And just the rhetoric of the whole pro-abortion movement, the politicians, is that this is our sacrament. This is the hill that we will die on. But I like what you said, that time eventually will run out. And I think we will see a mass wave of abortion facilities closing. And that's the thing about the workers, is that if you're out there and you're praying and you're doing the 4 things Abby said to do, and not doing the 4 things Abby said not to do. What a great wellspring for these workers in places like Texas and Florida and Mississippi and Tennessee and South Carolina. And, we have these 23 states, that have just highly regulated. Some have banned abortion, and it's awesome. So thank you for joining us, Abby. I hope everybody goes to abortionworker.com to check it out, so what you're referring people to. But it's awesome, these resources. They have a resume guy. I didn't even know that. That's genius. So and if you guys want any, we have little drop cards. Don't go put them on anybody's car at the clinic, but we do have them. Some people like to put them in the little folder they take out to the clinic, or, whatever you take out to the clinic, or a little fanny pack or whatever, just in case a worker approaches you. You can they're very small. They're like little business card size. You can just, quickly hand them one of those. We have all kinds of resources on our website, all kinds of videos you can watch, workers that have left. So it just kind of helps you, if you do ever engage with a worker, it just kind of helps you kind of learn our language and how we talk about it. So yeah, we do have some resources though for you guys. If you ever want to hand something out to someone at a clinic, if you are in contact with them, just don't mail it in. Don't mail it in. Don't mail it in. And speaking of mailing things in, be sure to email us at podcast@40daysforlife.com with your favorite Abby Johnson story or encounter. And the best 5 people will get a copy of her book, Fierce Mercy, and a DVD, the Blu-ray of Unplanned. So be sure to email those, podcast@40daysforlife.com. I'm really looking forward to that. And if nothing else, if you listen or watch this, there's something in here. So give us some good material, and we'll send the top 5 people a copy of her book and her movie. So thank you, Abby. Thank you, Steve. Be sure to rate, review, and share this podcast. We have a lot of big content coming out to finish the year. So please look out for that. There's a lot of things that we recorded that will be released as we enter a new year and a very busy 2024. God bless you, and we will see you next time.